Ryan Smith, would you like to unmute yourself?
That's under new business, it should be, I think.
Oh, do you want to do new business on that? Okay, let's then hold off. Well, he's
But it doesn't
technically
matter.
in the public. But Ryan, why don't you speak now because you're in the public section.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure because I'm no longer on this board. If I'm
Yes.
supposed to be speaking during your new and old business. I suspect that because I am no longer on the board, I should be speaking in the public comment period.
Yes.
I want to
Yes,
thank
please.
everybody for being here tonight. It's certainly a thankless job being on the land use board, knowing from personal experience, and from being on both sides of the table.
We
I
miss
understand
you.
where you're coming from. Okay. I would love to come back, but then Rich or Mike would have to step down, and I know that's not wise. They are a contributing members of the board and certainly do a phenomenal job, giving up both their Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get down to business. I'm standing before you as councilman. We have a new stormwater control ordinance that was, I believe, reviewed by your board in July. Sam, I had a conversation with John Rushke this morning concerning this ordinance, and he explained to me there were some changes in this new ordinance, which is basically been put before us because of the new stormwater regulations that are come down from the state. 7:8 and JAC 7:8, the stormwater management regulations, have been revised as of March of this year, set to take effect in March 2021. As such, the NJDEP and the stormwater regulations have given us a new sample model municipal ordinance. Our current ordinance is based on the last iteration, which was from 2016. You guys, I think, reviewed this in July before it was given to us. Now, at the council level, we're supposed to approve this. I have some issues with some of the wording involved here. I'm going to go down to just the minutia of what's going on in this ordinance. There's a definition in here for impervious surface that is new. And it was revised by John Rushke to match the Highlands ordinance. Everybody here on this board has experienced the plethora of different definitions of impervious surface. It is regulated at the NJDEP level. It is regulated at the Highlands Council level. It is regulated in all 537 municipalities differently. There are different definitions for every reviewer that you're going to ever see in land use in the state of New Jersey. What we have here is we have a change from the current ordinance, which matches the municipal sample ordinance. And that definition, which currently is in our code and is recommended as part of the sample ordinance, is a surface that has been covered with a layer of material so that it is highly resistant to infiltration by water. That's the definition we have been using. That's the definition that the state recommends. And that is not what is in this ordinance. This ordinance reads, impervious surface means any structure, surface, or improvement that reduces or prevents absorption of stormwater into land, including porous paving, paver blocks, gravel, crushed stone, decks, patios, elevated structures, and other similar structures, surfaces, or improvements. To be considered an impervious surface, the structure, surface, or improvement must have the effect of reducing or preventing stormwater absorption. That's a mouthful. The part of this that concerns me runs counter to what I recall from my time on this board and what Mike has always been a proponent of, is we reduce our runoff in this town a lot of the times by removing our impervious coverage and replacing it with things like porous paving, gravel driveways. We have never counted decks. We counted the surface under the deck. If it was impervious underneath the deck, then we would count it as an impervious surface. Changing this definition is going to fundamentally change the way your board operates and how it sees impervious coverage. And I don't think that was what you intended to do when you gave us this ordinance. I think My suggestion would be is to perhaps modify this ordinance before we pass it. I'm not sure you have the ability to do that before we meet to vote on this tomorrow night, but I can honestly tell you at this stage of the game, if I were to vote on this tomorrow night, I would vote no in its current situation. While we're on to the minutiae of this, there's two things in here that have always concerned me about our ordinance, and they are in here from last time, and they are also not part of the municipal sample recommended ordinance. It is the fact that this ordinance was designed to regulate larger developments. That's why major development is such an important part of this ordinance. It's not really designed for small projects. We are the only municipality that I know of that includes a definition for minor development in here. And our definition reads, any development that provides for disturbing 1,500 or more square feet of land but less than 1 acre of land. That threshold, 1,500 square feet, is even lower than the Soil Conservation District threshold. If you're less than 5,000 square feet of disturbance, you're exempt from Soil Conservation District review. Basically, what we're saying here is that any development over 1,500 square feet is subject to these regulations, which include green infrastructure requirements, low impact development requirements, not just water quantity equal or less than the existing conditions, but reductions. Where I come from and where I do design work, that means instead of putting in 1 dry well, you're putting in 5. A reduction of 50% of your runoff at the 2-year storm is a significant amount. A reduction to 75% of the 10-year storm is a significant amount of reduction. These are not the requirements that the state intended for us to enforce upon small projects. I really don't think it's a good idea for us to pass an ordinance that says, okay, you want to build a 1,200 square foot house and put an 800 square foot driveway. I want you to put a bioretention basin in your front yard. I don't think that's the intent of this. So I think we need to remove the minor development from this portion of the ordinance. It is addressed elsewhere in our ordinance for good reason. We should regulate. It should be required that houses of a certain size should have a driveway on the ground. We all know that. It works fine. We don't need to start requiring major development requirements for our minor developments. The biggest problem I have with that is not only that we have the definition in there, but way at the back, in section 11, in almost the 11th page, or the last page, page 28 of 38 pages, minor development. All the provisions of this article shall be applicable to minor development. We didn't even put it up front in the applicability section, which is the first section of the ordinance. We put it way in the back. That's deceitful, and I think it needs to be changed. You need to remove minor development from this section of the ordinance, and I think you need to keep the impervious surface coverage definition that you had for a long time. I can't approve this ordinance tomorrow night the way it's written. I'll close with that. Thank you all for listening.
Hey, Ryan,
Okay.
question for you. Many times we see these dry wells in homes that are being put in a single family home. We can't even get a single dry well in there, much less one that would cover that kind of quantity. Right?
Agreed.
We've seen that
Agreed.
how many years? So do we modify this before rescind it back, go over it again with Ryan's comments and reapproach the vote on it?
The answer is no. It's in the council's hands. The council will review and of course, tomorrow night is the introduction for this ordinance. There'll be no vote to approve it. Of course, Councilman Smith makes some good points that I've absolutely support. This is of course, an introduction is only an introduction. We have some work to do with this. And so now it's in the council's hands, and I expect that the council will be prudent in reviewing and making sure that we serve the best interest of the town on this. And so we've worked hard in our town the zoning board and now the land use board with impervious coverage. And I've been a huge proponent of dry wells, impervious pavement, impervious concrete, the use of gravel instead of macadam. It all makes a difference in controlling runoff and making sure we get the water to percolate back into the ground where it belongs. So we have a little bit of work to do on this to make sure that it doesn't have a devastating effect on what we want to do to keep developing our town, and to make sure people can maintain their quality of life if they want to make improvements to their property, or have a small development. So we have a little bit of work to do on this, and that's going to be the council's job to make sure that we get that done. Just to be clear on where we're at with it and what's going to happen next. So now it's our job, the council's job, to make sure that we go through this and make sure we don't miss anything that's going to hurt us later.
Sam, are we under any time constraints on this? Is any I guess the better question is any rush on this?
No.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, March 1st of 2021 is the deadline to adopt the new ordinance.
Okay.
That is one
Perfect.
year from when the regulations were adopted. And NJDEP has been giving towns not so subtle reminders that
Okay.
you know, the deadline is approaching. So
Okay.
every town is kind of in this period of scrambling to work on them right now. You guys aren't the only one.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'm sure Samantha's been paying attention, so I'm sure she can give feedback to our concerns to John and the company, right, Samantha?
Absolutely. I got my notes here. So we will definitely, between tonight and the comments tomorrow, we'll be
Yes.
we're going to make some revisions and work
Yeah.
toward, something that's acceptable to everyone.
Yeah, but we have to show, remember, this is a introduction, so we have to show that to the DEP and to the other state organizations that we are in good faith going to try to get this done. We're not going to not do it. We are going to do it, but I'd like to believe we're going to do it on our own terms. So the first step is the introduction. After that, we're not going to introduce the final till we think it's the final that we want it to look like. And that we, the governing body, it's our responsibility now to make sure we do this correctly in concert with our engineer.
Will that come back to us at all, Mike? Any part of it?
Pardon me?
Will any of it come back to us to relook at it?
We looked at it. No, it's in the governor. It's in the hands of the council now. We're the ones that have to comply with the statutes. At the end of the day, we the governing body, have to comply with the statutes. The burden falls upon the governing body to make the correct and accurate decision. I can't be any clearer or honest about it than that.
Right. So Bob, we had our chance back earlier in the year if we wanted to make any comments or anything, and that's passed. Now it's in the governing body's hands. And I think that we hear Ryan's comments loud and clear. I think we'll hear our engineer's comments and anyone else in the public that want to make comments at our meeting coming up. And I think it's in good hands and be taken care of properly.
Yeah, usually all the comments are at the final reading. The introduction just gives us the opportunity to fix it if we think it needs to be fixed. So it's chicken and egg stuff. We can't not do it by statute. We have to do it. So this is our opportunity now to make sure that we do it right. Introducing it, then we're going to have some conversations about it, some work sessions about it, and then hopefully the final product that we introduce is going to be in the best interest of Hopatcong.